Did you know that project management software can save a small business hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars? According to leading industry publications, including McKinsey Quarterly Magazine, small and medium-sized companies that implement an effective project management strategy are 87% likelier to excel digitally, crush rivals, gain market share, and get more work done quickly. In this video, I will show you how project management software can help you cut costs, increase revenue, and streamline tasks. Stay tuned. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I'm very happy to have you. I hope you are doing wonderful. I'm doing fantastic. Go grab a cup of coffee or a vodka or tea and we'll just roll. Before we start, I want to quickly give a shout out to our wonderful fans. We have Daniel Price from Delta, Alabama, Poppy Reynolds from Hendricks, Alabama, and Rudy Powell from Shelby, Alabama. We love you. Thank you so much for the comments, the feedback, and the topic suggestions. We'll really appreciate that. Now let's just jump into today's wonderful topic. Now the topic is very clear. It's very simple. How to use small business project management software to implement a digital first operation, streamline tasks, get insights into rivals' businesses, and devise a work management approach that is dirt cheap. That's the key word. Dirt cheap. I want to save you some ka-ching here. I want to save some cash here. So first element that you need to think about when you are trying to acquire business management or project management software rather is the first thing is task management, right? This is the bottom line. If you are trying to manage a project, you want to have a way to administer, oversee tasks in a very wonderful way, in a clear way. And what's really important here is that you want to keep track of things once the project starts, so that if anything goes wrong, if anything is inappropriate, if you're wasting resources, or if you have identified a problem, a bottleneck, you can address it quickly. And this is very important, folks. I can't emphasize this enough, that task management is the initial point. This is where you instill some kind of motivation or some kind of operational efficiency within your project. Don't wait until the last minute. Don't tell me I didn't tell you. Don't procrastinate on key processes here. And what are those key processes? Number one, tasks. You want to assign tasks to people who are competent, and you want to track those tasks, those initiatives as they get done, right? And there are several ways to do that. There are gazillion ways to actually do that, right? You can set due dates, you can assign priorities, you can assign tiers, so tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. You can assign risk profiles, so H will stand for high risk, M will stand for medium risk, and low will stand for low risk. And this is very important to really think about. So if the task involves several actions, for example, you can break them down into smaller tasks, into subtasks, into cluster tasks. And this is very important. And task owners can spend time logging hours, logging priorities manually or by using a timer, no matter what. It is important to really go back to the task management aspect of project management, because it allows you to cut cost. The second element that is very key here is milestones. Milestones are very important. Milestones are major progress points along the timeline of your project. So you need to reach those to reach success. You need to overcome the hurdles in the project to reach success. Economists call it KPI, key performance indicators. I call it milestones. those are what I will call project threshold you need to get so that your project can be completed very, very quickly from start to finish. There is also dependencies that is very important. Now, dependencies actually relate to those tasks that are necessary, that need to be completed before another. So if you live like me and work like me in a globalized environment, and all of us do, all of us do. I don't know anybody who would tell me right now that they don't have this sort of global perspective. So if you have a project that has a team working from multiple locations on multiple servers, they have to log into multiple servers, they have to work from Asia, from the States, from Africa, from Latin America, from Europe. Dependencies becomes very important because you can use them to control the sequence in which tasks need to be completed. Regardless of where the person is working from, you can track the progress. You can identify the bottlenecks very quickly. The next thing here is that you have Kanban. Kanban is a process management tool similar to TQM, Total Quality Management, which I like better, but those tools allow you to actually visualize tasks as cards. So Kanban, for instance, allow you to represent tasks as cards placed in different columns. So the columns could represent the percentage of tasks that are complete, the risk that are high, the priority of the task, the task list that need to be completed, or the human resources you need to hire to complete those tasks. Kanban allows you, it's a wonderful place to quickly acknowledge things that are not working, things that are working. You can use drag and drop and find out what's going wrong when the project is falling behind schedule, or the project is losing money. You are overspending on things that really don't matter, or you are actually, the team is lethargic. This is what I call operational lethargy. They are sitting around and not knowing what to do because somehow the initial vision is not clear enough, and that needs to be fixed. The calendar is another thing you want to think about when considering task management. Now, this is very important whether or not you are a project management professional or a very ambitious and proactive business manager. Calendar allows you to see all the tasks, the initiatives, the milestones, the bugs. You can see all of these things on the project's calendar, and you can schedule using that calendar. You can schedule events, meetings, chat sessions, and the bottom line here is that all these activities, this correlated or interrelated activities, allow you to keep everyone on the same page. And if a project is global in nature, this is very important, right? This is the best you can do to make sure that you stay on top of your goals, that you actually save money, that you do the things that are needed to crush rivals and streamline tasks. We'll be right back right after this commercial break. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. This is the second section. I'm just very happy to have you. I am glad that you are still around. We are talking about a very interesting topic, a topic that has allowed more than 87% of very successful entrepreneurs to transform their businesses into multi-million-dollar businesses. And I want to show you today how to use small business project management software to implement a digital-first operation, streamline tasks, get insight into competitors' businesses, and devise a work management approach that is dirt cheap. We want to save you cash. We want to bring more ka-ching in your bank account, in your company bank account. So, how do we do that? We want to automate tasks. We talked about task management in the first section. Now we have another section that sort of talks about the importance of automating tasks. If you are trying to prevent bottlenecks, you are trying to chase away operational lethargy, you are trying to bring into your company project efficiency, project harmony, you want to keep all stakeholders happy. By stakeholders, I mean regulators, vendors, customers, suppliers, you have logistics specialists, everybody involved in your value chain. If you want to keep those people happy, you got to automate tasks at a certain point, especially if you don't like taking care of follow-ups, following up on emails. Who likes that anyway? Well, sometimes you got to do them. You got to follow up on those emails, right? Nobody likes them, but this is very important. So the first thing you want to do in trying to automate your task here is to visualize. You want to visualize the processes, key processes, and important elements of your project timeline. You want to look at simple processes, complex workflows, convoluted workflows, or work streams. You want to look at things like approvals, follow up. You want to visualize and easily drop the major elements that need to be made, that need to be completed before you move on. Earlier, I talked about dependencies, and this is where dependencies are very important. Let me give you a very simple example. Say, for instance, you are an online entrepreneur, and you are engaged in e-commerce on a global level, and you engage in things like drop shipping. You outsource the production of your merch to another person, and the person is somewhere in Asia. You are somewhere in Missouri or Shelby, Alabama. Rudy Powell, I'm still thinking about you. Shelby, Alabama, for instance. You have dependencies, and what's happening here is that you want to be able to visualize the workflow that goes from Shelby, Alabama to, say, Shanghai, China, or Johannesburg in South Africa. And by looking at your projects beyond the geographical constraints, you're able to automate tasks and visualize the important workflows and loop in the right people at the right time. Because the last thing you want is hire people who are just sitting around not doing anything, and you're just paying them, and you're wasting precious cash. You want to identify the dependencies. You want to make sure those dependencies are interrelated with important processes, and you can hire people at the right time. This is very important, particularly if you run a seasonal business, or you run a business that has a sort of ups and downs, and you are able to adjust your resource allocation based on how your business is performing. So if you loop in the right people at the right time, you are able not only to gain market share, because you are able to use fewer resources more efficiently. You can also automate email notifications. So I'm talking about notifications to colleagues. If you're dealing with the task stages, if you are in the initial phase, or the transition phase, or the production phase, or whatever phase you are in, there is no need for follow-ups anymore. Those emails go out automatically. Those notifications are sent out automatically. And this is what small business project management software does, because it allows you to just push things around, to plan things, and then let the whole process run itself. By task automation, you can also actually plan things in detail. You gain a lot of clarity and control over the most convoluted part of the project. And what is really important here is that you can break down those large chunks of those large tasks or activities or initiatives into smaller chunks. And who doesn't like smaller chunks? Everybody loves smaller chunks, I guess. when it comes to work, of course, because I think if I have to think about my burger, I don't like a smaller chunk. I like a little big chunk when it comes to food. Well, I'm guilty as charged. So the bottom line here is that you want to break down those large and convoluted tasks into smaller chunks. And by doing that, you are saving time because the team can focus on what's really important and can be more efficient and effective. Another thing you want to do here when it comes to task automation is to have a master project calendar, or use that. There are tools that allow you to create that in a project management program so that you can have a master project calendar that allows you to have an overview of the task ahead. You are able to jump in the project very quickly, communicate with team members, whatever they are, whenever they are available. You can drop messages that are critical to them, and things get done. Things get done. Remember, that's the bottom line. Things must get done. We want to get things done. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another section of your favorite show, the Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are still talking about a very interesting topic, which is how do you use small business project management software to implement a digital-first operation, streamline tasks, get insights into rivals' businesses, and devise a work management approach that is dirt cheap. Now, we have talked about task management and task automation, and now we want to move on to time tracking. Why time tracking is an essential feature in a business project management program. But before we do that, just want to quickly give a shout out to our wonderful fans, listeners, and viewers. We are where we are because of you. It's great. It's just been a great journey so far. So we're giving a shout out to Dominic Walsh in Highland Acres. That's in Delaware, beautiful state of Delaware. Want to give another shout out to Maddie Welch, who is in Wyoming, Delaware. You are wonderful, Maddie. We are blessing you. We're sending you lots of love to you and your families, as well as to the family of Dominic Walsh. We are also giving a big affectionate shout out to Lane Kelly. Lane, you are wonderful. Thanks for the message. And Lane lives in Newark, Delaware with her family. Thank you so much. We are, by the way, folks, please feel free to drop us comments. Feel free to, if you think the comment so far is, if the content so far is adding value to your career, or you think somebody might need it, feel free to share, like, subscribe. You know the whole deal. Love, comments, you know. Let's talk about time tracking now. Time tracking is really important because time is money. I don't have to tell you that. And I appreciate you spending your time with us today and listening to our conversation about project management software. We want to help you track time. We want to help you identify where does time go, especially if you're working on a long project. It is very important to use the time tracking feature of a project management program to record the time that your team is spending on a particular activity. You can record that on a spreadsheet. You can determine the non-billable and billable hours, and you can send invoices to clients. That is if you are a contractor. But if you are a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur using the software to run your multiple business activities, you can also use time tracking to evaluate how long a contractor or your own team is spending on a particular activity. You can determine which activities are bringing a lot of value to your business, which activities are just pure bottlenecks and are just wasting you a lot of cash. And you can also track the invoices and other business documents that are sent by contractors. So this is very important. Time tracking also allows you to perform easy invoicing. You can issue invoicing very easily. Now, this is a very, very important part of business project management software. Why? If you can easily invoice the clients, the chances of loss, the chances of waste, the chances of mistakes are reduced. And I can tell you that large projects, or even smaller one, by the way, they give rise to a lot of errors, especially if you don't have the right tools. You might be working for free, or your team might be working for free. So the invoice integration feature allows you to turn timesheets into invoices and send them straight to clients. Again, that's if you are looking at it from a contractor perspective, it's very easy. But if you are also a small business owner, the easy invoicing feature allows you to track what the contractor is sending you, or even better, if you are using your own team, chances are you are allocating cost to different departments or different activities. So easy invoicing allows you basically to allocate costs to certain activities, to allocate cost properly to certain activities. So when it's time to actually evaluate your profitability, you're able to know exactly at a glance where you're spending money, right? You want to know where your ka-ching is going, because if one activity or two are sucking all the ka-ching out of your bank account, your company's bank account, you want to start taking a look at those activities and just execute whatever tactics you need to reduce cost. Time tracking also allows you to do comparative planning. This is very important. This is an important concept in management accounting, comparative planning, and also project management. Comparative planning allows you to improve what I call variance analysis. You kind of compare your planned performance versus the actual performance. Versus you actually expected performance versus the actual. And that allows you to know whether you are having a positive variance or a negative variance. And folks, it is very important. And sometimes negative variance can be a good thing. Well, let's say, for instance, you are spending more time on a particular task than anticipated, but that task you are seeing the value added, you are seeing improvement based on the overall project's progress, and this is very key. This is very important. So positive or negative variance analysis allows you to know where you are exactly in terms of your project. And you can, I spoke earlier about the ability to break down convoluted tasks into smaller chunks. So if you could break down each project down into smaller tasks, smaller activities, you can pinpoint exactly where your calculation are weak or strong. You can identify very easily where you are making mistakes, where you are experiencing operational lethargy. This is just a fancy phrase for laziness. People not doing what they're supposed to do. So it fits nicely into the overall plan. The fourth and last thing here is calendar. Calendar is it's one of those nice things that you need to pay attention to. And I always say that a calendar is not just a place for you to plan events. You can also see the spread of bugs. You can see the spread of milestones, tasks, priorities, risks identified. You can actually have a view of the whole operation of your project. And this is very important, again, from a mindset of a cost cutter, from a mindset of someone who is trying to save money and make things more efficient. The ability to have an overview of all events planned and expected can be very conducive to the project you're trying to run or that you are running. We'll be right back right after this. Hello. Welcome back, folks, to another section of Sweetie Kiwi, the world's largest infotainment show and your favorite show. We are talking now. Obviously, we are still continuing our conversation around small business project management software, specifically how this kind of software can help you implement a digital-first operation, streamline tasks, get insights into rivals' businesses, and devise a work management approach that is dirt cheap. Let's just quickly, we talked about task automation, we talked about task management, we talked about time tracking. Now let's just talk about a relevant topic. It's social management, social project management. What is it? Very simply, social project management means that you are integrating aspects and features of social media into your project management. Why? Because a project, or let me just sort of say this in a simple way. Project management relates to humans, and therefore it becomes a human activity. So if it is a human activity, it is a social activity. It is a social enterprise. So people have to interact, people have to get people have to get mad at each other, people have to constantly find ways to collaborate, to succeed, to find ways to fix bottlenecks and move forward. So if you have a social enterprise, social media allows you, with the technology integrated, with the technology integration, allows you really to run your project more efficiently. Social media, it is a fact that is well known. Social media channels make collaboration very easy, so easy that anyone can do it. So if you get a small business project management program that draws from the most helpful feature of social networks, it allows you, for instance, to have discussions around different projects, things like milestone, events, task, priorities, risk. You can actually assign a profile to each user. So each user has a profile page that features an activity stream of their initiatives, the main things they are working on. And those are very interesting things. This is very, very, very important. For example, feed. Everybody knows what feed is, right? You log into your Facebook account, you have a feed, you see a listing of things that pop up on the screen because you have subscribed to a magazine, to a newspaper, to a page, to the latest jokes of your friends. So you have a feed. Similarly, you can use the feed feature shown in social media, in social project management software, if you will. You can use that feed to look at project updates. So the updates will show up in the feed to let everyone know where things stand, who is doing what, who is falling behind, what has been accomplished, that kind of stuff. And it really instills a spirit of camaraderie, in my view, within the whole team. And it encourages opinions, it encourages discussions, ideas, brainstorming, the kind of activity, the kind of intellectual activity you want to have on a team, especially if the team has been run from a global perspective. In other words, if you have a global project, you're able to change things around and communicate in real time, right? I'm kind of interested, now that we're talking about feed. What is your experience with global project management initiatives? In other words, you are working in a global team, or your company is dealing with people overseas. Comment below just to let us know your opinion. I'm just kind of curious about your your experience, your views, your insight into that kind of stuff. And also, while you're at it, don't forget. Can we say it? Are we allowed to say it? No? Yes? Please share it, like, subscribe, comment. If you know someone who will actually benefit from this sort of content, share. Let's spread the wealth. Let's spread the ka-ching, the intellectual ka-ching, which will bring the physical, the actual ka-ching later on. So this is very important. The feed is important. The second thing that is important also is the forums. In forums, you can actually allow people to have a public conversation, a public discourse about the important ideas and the important activities that are taking place during the project management exercise or as the project is ongoing, right? You can actually use the forums to categorize topics into folders. You can keep tabs on the most important subjects. You can keep tabs on the most important people, the most important stakeholders. This is actually, if you think about it, a fantastic way to reduce the time you're spending in meetings. You can keep your team coordinated. You can keep the team motivated. This is very important, right? Again, coordinated and motivated, especially if people are working remotely. If folks are working from Missouri, from Alabama, Johannesburg, Shanghai, Lithuania, Latvia, Germany, you name it. People are working from different locations. Coordination and motivation becomes key. Another way to increase interaction within the team is chat, right? I'm not talking about the kind of chat that you are thinking of right now. I'm just talking about chatting, creating private chat rooms where everybody involved in the chat. What are you talking about? Anybody involved in the project can collaborate real time. They can discuss ideas. They can keep topics separate with different chat rooms. Think of this as a digital version of the conference rooms you have in your office, where people can book the room for 30 minutes or 1 hour, or for those who are very into long meetings, several hours, and they can have a very confidential, very quiet conversation. It is the same thing here that you have with the chat. So you can basically use the chat features and have serious conversation, and people can refer back to what was discussed when needed. Another element that is very important is the activity stream, right? This is kind of similar to the feed, with the essential difference that it's not usually shown on the team member homepage, but it is a way to basically identify the to-do list or the has done list of your team members. So you can actually see the activities of your teammates in the project. It's shown in a timeline view, right? So you can see exactly what was done, what remains to be done. You can be updated. You can send the updates to all the main stakeholders, and you can see what was done within a time span. This is very important, especially if we think about things like timesheets. You can reconcile the activities shown in the activity stream to the timesheet and the invoice, and link that back to your calendar, so okay, in the last 3 months this is what has been done. In the next 3 months or 4 months, the next quarter, this is what I expect to be done. It also allows you to have an audit trail of the project, so that if something happens tomorrow, especially if you are going to deal with government officials, regulators, that's if you are in a heavily regulated industry, you are able to quickly download this audit trail and just present it to the authorities, and that saves you, believe me, that saves a lot of time, a lot of cash. The last thing you want to talk about here, the last thing you want to pay attention to when it comes to social project management is the pages. You can actually have a page for each major activity. It's just in essence, it's just a recap of the activity, right? So earlier I talked about the fact that a project in modern world, in the modern era, is actually broken down into phases. So you have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, all the way to phase 5, phase 10. And each phase, for instance, you have initiation, progress, transition, maturity of the project, completion, follow-up. All these phases can have their own page. So you can have it as a page that is linked to an information archive about each particular aspect of this work stream or this workflow. And what happens is that this is great because newcomers to the team can get up to speed and start contributing right away, right? They can read, they can basically have all the info. It's basically an FAQ, a condensed, comprehensive FAQ of that particular activity. We'll be right back right after this commercial break. Welcome back, folks, to another section of Sweetie Kiwi. I hope you are doing marvelous, because I am doing marvelous. We are continuing our interesting conversation around small business project management software, particularly how to use the software to crush rivals. Yes, we want to crush them. To implement a digital-first operation, to streamline tasks, to remove inefficiencies, to kick lethargy away, to kick operational lethargy away, to devise a work management approach that is dirt cheap. Want to save you some money? Save some ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Probably you can send it back to me, the savings. I mean, no, yeah, maybe. So where were we? So we've talked about social project management being an important aspect of small business project management software. We talked about time tracking, task automation, and we also talked about task management. Now I want to talk to you more about how do you track issues and workflows, right? And before I even get into the nitty-gritty, I want to ask everybody listeners, can you just tell us your experience so far with issue tracking? How do you track issues and workflows in any activity you do at work? Do you use an app? Do you use an Excel spreadsheet like some of my friends? Do you use software? What kind of tool do you use to track issues and workflows? Now, a lot of companies, whether they're even the smaller ones, those who are very successful, they use business project management software to track issues and workflows. And the reason they do that is because they are able to record issues rapidly, and most importantly, tackle those issues with ease. So you're able to have a consolidated view of all the priorities, all the bugs, all the bottlenecks, all the issues, and you can track the progress of those issue mitigation with reports. In addition, and I just find this very wonderful, you can even automate mundane, very basic tasks and personalize the interface to suit your needs. So if you have a company that operates in export-import, you can customize the interface to suit the needs of for instance, maritime law or maritime issues. If you are in online, if you do some kind of e-commerce, you can customize your interface to link it, to integrate it into your online store. If you're using a store builder like Shopify, for instance, I'm not endorsing them. I'm just I think they should be paying me for it, dropping their name here. Maybe Shopify, just send me a check. So if you are using a store builder, like a very well-known store builder, you can actually integrate their interface with the issue tracking and workflow interface of a business project management program. And there are a couple of things you want to pay attention to here. The first thing is issues. Every project has issues, right? Every project is a human activity, and by its very definition, a human activity will have issues, will have problems that need to be fixed. And what's very interesting here is that you can submit bugs. You can use spreadsheets to identify those bugs. You can track them. You can find ways to assign, to allocate resources to those issues and bugs. You can even automate. You can use automation, things like automated emails, text messages, to configure the business rules that are critical for your particular activity. And the reason why this is important is because sometimes if you work in a project and you rely heavily on third-party applications or third-party vendors, you want to be able to have a way to notify those individuals so they can make the appropriate changes if you change the rules on your end. For instance, if you have an SLA, a service level agreement, it is important. A lot of service level agreements nowadays are electronic, so you don't have to print 1,000 pages of SLA and go to and sign them and just ship them to your vendor or to your service provider. You can actually sign everything electronically. But if there are changes to that SLA or changes to the project, you want to quickly update the SLA, but you want to automate it because a lot of changes can happen in a project, and the last thing you want is taking the time out of your schedule to manually update the SLA and actually integrate those changes in the SLA. Another thing that you want to really do when it comes to issue tracking and workflow is to customize. You can actually customize your interface so that you can log issues directly from external websites. This is very important because if you have an intranet and an extranet being your public website, and you have team members who cannot, because they're somewhere in Acapulco. Well, Acapulco, that's a vacation spot, no? Well, if you have someone who is just working and relaxing and enjoying a nice tan while working and they can't log into the intranet, the project management software can allow that person to log into the regular company website, whereby he or she can get into the intranet. That allows you to protect data. This is very important because if you work on sensitive data, you can actually create barriers, encryption barriers that allow your data to be protected, to be secure. They also allow you those barriers to set your own workflows and link related issues, all the related issues, into the master calendar, the master project calendar. I talked about that earlier. This is very important. Another thing you can do also is making sure that you create a framework. It could be a total quality management, a TQM framework that allows you very clearly to define targets you're trying to reach. You specify who and whom to escalate issues to. You can make sure that the priorities are always taken into account when team members are performing work. And that is the kind of framework, that's the kind of imperatives that would allow you, the operational imperatives that would allow you to move forward and cut the cost you really need. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another section of Sweaty Kiwi. I'm doing fantastic. I love this topic, and I'm sure that you are also in love with this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful topic of small business project management software. And what are we talking about here? We are still talking about how to use small business project management software to implement a digital-first operation, streamline tasks, get insight into your rivals' businesses, and devise a work management approach that is dirt cheap. Now I want to talk to you about charts and reports. Now, this is very important. You spend a lot of time implementing tasks, executing initiatives. You got to have a way to report, to summarize all these activities, and be able to take a peek into those activities, make changes, see what works, what doesn't work, and have detailed visuals that allow you to track your team's progress and know exactly where the bottlenecks are so you can take action, right? This is just the gist of charts and reports in the project management software and software functionality. But before we even dig into that, I just want to quickly remember our wonderful and marvelous viewers and listeners who are supporting us all the time, supporting us in the United States and Canada, in the whole world, in Asia, in Africa, in Europe, in Latin America. We love you. I want to particularly acknowledge Sebastian Chapman in Olmsted, Hannah Hunt in McClure, and Aubrey Hawkins in Pleasant Hill. Now, I don't see the location of those wonderful people and their families, but I'm sure that the producers will very quickly give me that info. So I'm just waiting. So as I'm waiting for that particular info, I'm just going to quickly continue and say that Gantt reports are very important. Okay, I got the info now. Olmsted, McClure, and Pleasant Hill are in Illinois, the beautiful state of Illinois. Illinois. I'm coming very soon. Where were we? So Gantt charts. In charts and reports, the first thing you want to talk about here is you want to think about is Gantt chart. Now, Gantt charts have been around. They have been proven tools. They work wonderfully. You can use them in Excel as a plugin, or you can use them in a separate software program. What's very important here is to remember that a Gantt chart allows you to use the project activities to perform a variance analysis, right? You want to compare the expected versus the actual. You want to look at the plans have held up against the current project status. You want to look at dependencies so that if the plan changes, you can make edits in the chart yourself. What's very important here to remember here is that a Gantt chart is an adaptive tool. It is a flexible tool. It is a flexible analytical tool that you can use in a project activity, but even elsewhere. It's a universal tool. And what is even better is that it is in sync. It syncs very well into a resource utilization chart, which is another chart that you see in a typical project management software. The resource utilization chart, what I call RUC, it's basically a way for you, a very clever way for you to know who in your team has time to spare, you know, who is overloaded, like crazy overloaded, who is fully occupied. And it allows you, in essence, to make sure your resources are optimized at all times, that your talent, your just your resources, you know, your money, your talents are optimally engaged at all times. And the way I look at it is that your resource utilization chart allows you really to keep intellectual laziness, intellectual or operational lethargy at bay, to really cut the cost in inefficiencies. And there's another thing that reports integration also helps you do. Now, reports integration is a very important element here, because when you work on a project, whether you want it or not, you will be forced, you'll be compelled to issue, review countless gazillions of reports. And the last thing you want is to basically spend your time, instead of running the project, spend your time actually just reviewing reports, right? You want to have a way to consolidate all the reports so you can just spend 30 minutes or 15 minutes on all the reports that matter, just the reports that matter. And reports integration allows you to do that. So it allows you to integrate up to 100 reports. I've seen software providers that can integrate up to 500 reports. But for a small business or a mid-sized business, what you really need is to focus on integrating up to 50 or 75 reports so that you have the right insights, the deep insight that matter, and you can make the right decisions. Now, reports integration allows you to have intel. You want to gain access to a wide range of reporting and analytical tools about your project, about the rivals. You want to be able to have the capabilities that allow you to publish and share reports and embed them across websites, intranets, logs, social media, for instance. You want to have a ready-made reports and dashboard that really allows you to engage in all those activities. Again, this is very important. If you count the sheer number, the sheer volume of reports, and the sheer volume of data embedded in each report, you also want to visualize and understand the key project metrics. For me, this is very important. By key project metrics, I'm talking about not just profitability ratios, but things like resource allocation. You want to understand how your projects are progressing. You want to know the delayed tasks, the milestones by users. You want to analyze the completion rate. You want to manage the project proactively and calculate revenue based on ongoing projects, right? Calculate revenue, but of course also cost. That's just common sense, right? And the last thing you want to do here is to be able to, in reports integration, you want to be able to share and export and print reports. Did I say print report? Who is still printing report on this day? In this day? Now we have to move digital here. No time to print. Let me think about this. Probably lawyers are still printing a lot. I think that we need to start charging them as a society. We need to charge them a lot of money for bringing down so many trees. What do you think? Just comment in the section, comment below and just let us know what you think. But I was just kidding. The most important thing is you can use reports integration to share, export, and print report. And you can email those reports to the relevant members, to the stakeholders, so that everybody is kept in the loop. Everybody's in the loop. What's really even better here is that you can export those reports and dashboard and use them professionally. You can use them in your presentation, external emails, company events, investor presentations, that kind of stuff. So the bottom line here is that you're not reinventing the wheel. You're just using whatever is already available to you. We'll be right back right after this commercial break. Welcome back, folks. I'm just very happy to continue this conversation with you, this discourse around small business project management software, particularly how to use such software to implement a digital-first operation, streamline tasks, get insights into rivals businesses, by the way, and devise a work management approach that is dirt cheap. And we have talked about task management, task automation, time tracking, social project management. We talked about issue tracking and workflow, and we talked about charts and report, right? Now, to sort of lump everything into a nice, wonderful package, I want to converse with you around project administration. Now, project administration is quintessential, whether you are a professional project manager or an entrepreneur, a business owner who just wants to manage projects from time to time. The beauty of this is that if you use the right project management software, you can manage the project with careful planning and a lot of organization. What's happening here is that you are going to spend some time at the beginning in the planning phases of the project, but afterwards, I guarantee you can just relax, go to Acapulco and get a nice tan and just get everybody just keep working and just look at people working. The first tool that allows you to do that, to go on vacation but also run your business properly and efficiently, is templates. Right now, templates are very helpful if you work on several projects that have a common structure. You can use those templates to save yourself a lot of trouble, save money, boost employee morale, boost employee motivation, productivity, and all the nice stuff that come after that. You can create a template with all the overlapping info, or you can create like some kind of all-in-one template so you can launch projects quickly. For instance, if you are if you own a car dealership in McClure, Illinois, or Olmsted, Illinois, or Pleasant Hill, Illinois, and you run quarterly sales campaign or discounts, say around Easter, around the summer holidays, around Thanksgiving, or year-end holidays, you can actually have a template that can be customized based on whether you're having the Q1 discount programs, or Q2, Q3, Q4. Either way, you're able to save a lot of time and money and resources and sweat and what else? And you can save a lot of stuff and you can move on quickly. Which, by moving on quickly, you're able to motivate your team more. Another way to motivate your team is to transform the project into a game. Specialists call it gamification. I just call it playing. I'm not trying to have any complicated word here, but gamification is a very powerful tool, believe it or not, because within each person, each adult, lies a little veneer, in my view, lies a veneer of playfulness, of childishness. And if you can tap into this playfulness, this childishness veneer, if you can tap into it properly and transform the project that you have into a game, you're going to boost your productivity, your employees' productivity exponentially. And there are a lot of reports out there by the New York Times, by McKinsey, by Deloitte, by the Pentagon, to show that gamification allows an organization to motivate the team, to motivate their teams, for instance, by turning a grind into a game, by turning a boring project into a game, by turning something very, I would say, stressful into a wonderful activity. And all you need is to have the right tool. So small business project management software allows you to do that, because you can actually use things like badges and trophies. You can recognize, you can acknowledge the strong performers, and they in return can show off their profiles. And on the leaderboards, things like what I'm trying to say here is bring the whole thing about employee of the month, employee of the year, bring all this sort of nice reward program into the digital world, so people can actually see in something that was once a chore, they could see it now as a sport. You can also use project management software to enlarge the activities that you are conducting by having custom fields, right? So for instance, if you buy software that is not suited or doesn't have all the settings and all the fields that you need that apply to your field, you can actually yourself add new fields. And this is very important because if someone who works in the entertainment industry does not have the same needs as someone who works in import export. So you can create your own fields based on your industry. So you can set up a priority for each project. You can assign tasks to team members. You can have a list of requirements, a list of priorities, a list of bottlenecks to fix. You can assign a coach, a mentor. You can assign a mentee based on the chemistry, the operational chemistry in the team. You can also use clients to improve your chances of completing the project quickly. And what's really important here is that you can identify which clients are important to the project you're working on, and you can identify the clients that need more feedback. Some clients are very, very keen on communication. They want feedback every day, right? Whereas some clients are just more laid back and want to have feedback once in a while. So you are able to manage your project by knowing the feedback, the feedback requirements of each client, of each stakeholder. Another thing that is very important is the import-export feature. That is so important. We talked about reports integration. We talked about Gantt charts, resource utilization chart. It is important to be able to import and export your reports from the project management software into any spreadsheet, any platform you want, right? And this is very important. So you want all those things to be automated so that you can you can show data from your project management activities to other stakeholders and not be constrained by the requirements of one particular project management software. And that's really one of the things that will lead me to the last part here, to the last element here, which is the portal settings. Now, portal settings, a lot of project management vendors, software vendors, have portal settings. And this is one thing that a lot of small businesses and medium-sized corporations usually don't use, and they should be using more. Why? Because through portal settings, you can add it to your organization profile. But more importantly, you can actually update critical info such as billing status of a vendor or a customer, approvals, pending priorities, pending issues, working days, business hours. You can also provide more detail about your communication with external stakeholders, particularly government officials, because if you work, for instance, in a heavily regulated industry, the last thing you want is to waste time by not communicating swiftly, by not communicating appropriately with the authorities. So portal settings allow you to have this sort of real-time communication, real-time conversation with the authorities, and that will save you a lot of money and time. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back, folks, to another section of small business project management software, and we are at the end of today's conversation. I really want to thank you for sticking around, but we're not done, because I have a secret tip to give you that will blow your mind away. A tip about project management software that you want to hear. This is very important, especially if your goal is to run a successful multi-million-dollar organization. You want to listen to that pro tip. This is very important. Let's just quickly recap today's discourse about project management. Now, project management software allows your small business or mid-sized corporation on key elements. First is task management. You also have task automation. The software allows you to track time. You can use social project management features to run your project in a more social way, in an informal way, in a more effective way. Tracking, issue tracking and workflow is also important. After working on a report, you want to be able to have charts and reports, of course. After working on a project, after working on a project, you are able to track charts and report. And last but not least, you are in a better position to manage a project, whether you are a small business owner or a project management professional. And this is really where you see some kind of border, some kind of frontier, operational frontier between companies that are struggling in the competitive landscape and those that are just sailing by. They're just crushing it. They're just crushing rivals because they are able to implement those 7 things that I just mentioned. So today, I have a call to action for you. There's a popular saying, information is power, right? But I believe information is power. But for me, having the means and the mindset to execute that information is might. That's where the superpower is. And with today's conversation, there are a lot of things we talk about, but now there is time to act. If you want to be able to crush rivals, if you want to implement a digital first operation, you want to streamline tasks, you want to get insight into rivals' businesses and devise a work management approach that is dirt cheap, you got to take some actions. And what I suggest you do is get started today on your project management needs. Identify your key processes. Look into your work streams. Identify how you work, how long a typical key process takes from start to end. Find ways to reduce communication friction and boost efficiency in projects. And lastly, find a project management software vendor that suits your business, industry, and operational needs. Let me just repeat that. The last one. You want to find a project management software vendor that suits your business, industry, and operational needs. This is basically what will help you crush the competition, because you'll have that competitive edge by digging deeper into your organization's activity and finding out what works and what doesn't. This is basically the end of today's conversation. Oh yeah, we have a pro tip to give. Do you still need the pro tip? Are you sure? Are you sure? All right, I'll give it to you right after this. Welcome back. I'm very happy that you're still around with us. Today's pro tip is very simple, but very, very important. When you want to acquire a small business project management software, and that's your decision, which I think you should, buy or license software that features hybrid cloud integration as well as backup and storage. That way, all your activities and archiving patterns and logs are secure and also encrypted. Most importantly, they can be accessed anytime. This is particularly critical if you work in large groups or your team needs to access project files from multiple locations or multiple servers. But that was it. That's our pro tip for today. Good luck. Thanks for sticking around and listening to this conversation. We love you. Remember, stay marvelous.